Most people spend their whole life trying to control their emotions. But here is the problem. They are working on the wrong level. Every single one of them is trying to fix the reaction. They feel anger, so they try to calm the anger down. They feel fear, so they try to push the fear away. They get triggered, so they try to manage the trigger. But the trigger is not the problem. The reaction is not the problem. The problem is the system underneath, the internal wiring that produces those reactions in the first place. Think about it like this. Imagine a factory that keeps producing broken products. You can stand at the end of the assembly line and throw away every broken product that comes out. You will be busy all day. But the factory keeps running. The broken products keep coming. Nothing actually changes. Now, what happens if instead you go inside the factory and redesign the machine? You fix the source. Now, nothing broken comes out at all. That is exactly how Machiavellian psychological thinking works. It does not stand at the end of the line trying to manage what comes out. It goes deep into the machine and rewires the whole system. And once that system is redesigned, once your emotional architecture is rebuilt from the inside, something remarkable happens. People stop being able to get to you. Not because you are pretending to be strong, not because you are faking confidence, but because you have become structurally unreachable. Machiavelli understood something that most modern people completely miss. He understood that the person who cannot be emotionally read, triggered, or predicted holds all the power. Whoever controls the emotional dynamic controls the outcome. And the only way to control the dynamic is to make your inner world invisible. This is not about becoming cold. Cold people are still readable. A cold person has a pattern, and patterns can be exploited. This is about becoming something far more dangerous, unpredictable, unlinked, and structurally untouchable. Over the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through 7 specific psychological tricks rooted in Machiavellian thinking that will completely change how you operate. These are not motivational tips. These are not positive thinking strategies. These are architecture-level upgrades to how your mind works under pressure. By the end of this video, you will understand not just what to do, but why it works at a deep psychological level. And once you understand the why, you can apply it everywhere. If this already sounds like something you needed to hear, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments right now. I am the architect. Let's get into it. Number 1. Emotional trigger decoupling. Machiavelli once said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." And before you can command anything in the world around you, you must first command the world inside you. Here is how most people are wired right now. Something happens. Someone says something rude. Someone cuts you off. Someone disrespects you in public. That event hits your brain, and almost instantly an emotion fires. Anger, embarrassment, fear, hurt. And a split second after that emotion fires, you react. You say something, you do something, you make a face, your voice changes, your body language shifts. Stimulus, emotion, reaction. That chain happens so fast that most people do not even realize it is happening. They think they are just responding naturally. They think their reactions are just who they are. But that chain is not fixed. It is not permanent. It is a habit, and like any habit, it can be broken. Emotional trigger. Decoupling is the process of severing that automatic chain between what happens to you and what happens inside you. You are creating a dead zone, a gap, a space between the outside world and your internal response. And inside that gap, that is where everything changes. Think about the last time someone said something that really got under your skin. Maybe it was a comment meant to embarrass you. Maybe it was criticism that felt personal. What happened in that moment? Your brain registered the event, labeled it as a threat, and fired off an emotional reaction before your conscious mind even had a chance to weigh in. That process is called emotional hijacking. Your logic goes offline. Your reaction takes over. And whoever triggered that reaction now has power over you in that moment. When you practice trigger decoupling, you interrupt that hijack. You train your nervous system to pause, even for just 1 or 2 seconds, before the automatic response kicks in. In that pause, you get to choose what the event means. You get to decide if this situation is worth an emotional response at all. You become the one who assigns meaning, not the event, and not the person who created it. You do not develop this overnight. You start small. The next time something irritates you before you react, you ask yourself one question. What is actually happening here? Not what you feel about it, not what it reminds you of, just what is literally happening. That one question creates the gap. That gap is your power. Over time, as you practice this, the gap gets wider. Your automatic reactions get slower, and the people around you start to notice something different about you. They try to provoke you and get nothing back. They try to rattle you, and nothing rattles. They quickly realize they have no lever to pull, and once someone has no lever, they have no control. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I own my pause. Number 2. Psychological ownership shift. Machiavelli once said, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. To be the fox, you have to step back far enough to see the trap. You cannot see a trap if you are standing inside it." That is exactly what psychological ownership shift teaches you. Here is the core idea. Most people feel emotions because they believe things are happening to them. Someone insults you and you feel like you are the target. Someone disrespects you and you feel it personally, like your identity is under attack. Someone ignores you and it feels like rejection, like loss, like something is being taken from you. That perspective, the "this is happening to me" perspective, is the most emotionally vulnerable position you can be in. Because the moment you are inside the situation as a participant, you are open to being affected by it. You have emotional skin in the game, and emotional skin means emotional exposure. When someone insults you, you do not receive the insult as a person who has been attacked. You observe it as a person who is watching someone else's behavior. You watch their words the same way a scientist watches a specimen under a microscope, curious, detached, clinical. An insult becomes interesting. This person is attempting to establish dominance through verbal aggression. Disrespect becomes, this person is making a positioning attempt. They are trying to lower my status in this dynamic. Anger directed at you becomes, there is elevated emotional energy in this interaction. The other party is destabilized. When you shift from experiencing to observing, something profound happens. The emotional charge of the situation drops dramatically, because the charge only lives inside the experience. From the outside looking in, it loses most of its power over you. This is not pretending the situation is not real. It is real. What changes is your relationship to it. You are no longer inside the storm. You are watching the storm from a dry, elevated position. And from that position, you can see the whole picture. You can see what is actually happening, what the other person actually wants, and what the best move actually is. The people who operate from this position are the ones who always seem impossibly calm when chaos breaks out. not because they feel nothing, but because they have relocated themselves to a position where the chaos cannot reach them. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I observe. I decide. Number 3. Internal contradiction layering. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. And when what you really are is layered, complex, and internally contradictory, no one can build an accurate picture of you. And without an accurate picture, no one can predict you. And without prediction, no one can prepare a strategy to use against you." Most people are emotionally simple, not because they are unintelligent, but because they allow themselves to operate from one emotional state at a time. They are either calm or anxious, either engaged or disinterested, either confident or uncertain. One thing at a time, visible on the surface, and when your emotional state is singular and visible, it becomes readable. People can scan you in a few minutes and understand exactly where you are. They know when you are excited by something because you get louder. They know when you are threatened because you get defensive. They know when you are unsure because you hesitate. And once they know these patterns, they can use them. Internal contradiction. Layering trains you to hold multiple emotional states simultaneously. States that, on the surface, seem like they should cancel each other out. Calm, but deeply alert. You appear relaxed. You do not look like you are watching everything, but you are catching every micro-expression, every shift in tone, every hesitation. The calm is real. The alertness is also real. Both exist at the same time, detached but fully aware. You look like you are not invested in this situation. You are not leaning in. You are not showing urgency. But behind that apparent indifference, you are completely engaged, processing, evaluating, deciding. Engaged in the conversation, but internally unmoved. You are present. You are responsive. But the outcome does not touch your core. You are like a professional poker player who is completely focused on the game but has zero emotional attachment to any single hand. Why does this make you impossible to read? Because the people reading you can only see the surface layer. They pick up the calm, and they think they understand you. They see the detachment, and they think they have you figured out. But every read they make is incomplete. Every mental model they build of you is missing pieces, and a mental model with missing pieces produces wrong predictions. They try to anticipate your next move, and they are wrong. They try to trigger a specific response, and they get something unexpected. Predictability is a vulnerability. Complexity is armor. The way you build this capacity is by practicing holding two states at once in low-stakes situations. When you are in a casual conversation, practice being fully present and also internally observing. Practice being relaxed in your body while keeping your mind sharp and scanning. Over time, this becomes your default operating mode, and your default operating mode becomes impossible to see through. Number 4. Reaction value suppression. When you react to something, when you smile at a compliment, tense up at a threat, get excited by good news, or look rattled by bad news, you are giving someone a map, a real-time, live, constantly updating map of exactly how your inner world works. They learn what impresses you. They learn what scares you. They learn what makes you feel good and what makes you feel small. And once they have that map, they can navigate you. They can use that map to get what they want from you. Manipulators understand this. Negotiators understand this. Your reactions tell people where the doors are, and if you want to be unreachable, you have to stop handing out maps. Reaction value suppression is the practice of treating your reactions like a limited, precious resource, something you spend strategically, not freely. Before you react to anything, you ask yourself one internal question. Is revealing my state here worth anything to me strategically? Sometimes showing emotion is a power move. Sometimes it builds rapport, trust, connection. Sometimes it signals strength. In those cases, you react deliberately and purposefully because you have decided it serves you. But most of the time, a reaction serves someone else, not you. Someone says something provocative, hoping to get a rise out of you. They want to see you flinch. They want to see the irritation flash across your face. They want to see that they got to you. And if you give them that, if you react automatically, they win a small battle. They have confirmed that they have access to you, and they will use that access again. When you suppress that reaction, when you look at the provocation, absorb it, and give nothing back, something powerful happens. First, the person who provoked you becomes uncomfortable. The expected feedback loop has been broken. They threw something at you and got nothing in return. Humans are deeply wired to expect reciprocity in emotional exchanges. When reciprocity does not come, it creates a kind of psychological vertigo in the other person. Second, over time, they stop trying. People provoke others because there is a payoff, a visible reaction that tells them the provocation worked. When there is no payoff, provocation becomes pointless. They learn on a subconscious level that you are not a productive target, and they move on. Third, your own sense of internal control grows stronger. Every time you choose not to react automatically, you are exercising a muscle. That muscle gets stronger with every rep. Over weeks and months of practice, you begin to feel genuinely impervious to small provocations because you have trained yourself to be. This does not mean you become a blank wall. It means you become selective. Your reactions become meaningful because they are rare and deliberate. When you do choose to react, it carries weight. People pay attention to it precisely because it does not happen all the time. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is power. Number 5. Emotional memory erasure discipline. Machiavelli once said, "Wounds inflicted by the sword heal, but wounds inflicted by the tongue rarely do." He knew the power of emotional memory and how devastating it can be when used against you. Because emotional memory does not just hold on to pain, it creates a pattern, and patterns are control points. Think about the people you know who carry emotional history around like a heavy backpack. They remember every person who disrespected them. They replay every moment of embarrassment. They hold on to every slight, every betrayal, every time someone made them feel small. They have built entire internal narratives around those memories. I am someone who people disrespect. I am someone who always gets overlooked. People like that always treat me a certain way. Those narratives are not just unpleasant to carry, they are dangerous, because every one of them is a prediction, a story about how the world works and how you fit into it. And when you operate from a prediction, you behave in ways that confirm it. You become easy to anticipate because your behavior is shaped by a script that was written by past pain. And here's what is worse. Other people can read that script. Not always consciously, but on an instinctive level, people detect emotional residue. They can feel when someone is still reacting to an old wound. They can sense when someone is carrying resentment. They can tell when you are not fully in the present moment because part of your attention is still in the past. And a person who can read your emotional history can use it. They can position themselves as the antidote to your pain, or they can poke the wound to destabilize you. Emotional memory. Erasure discipline is about making a clear, deliberate distinction between two types of information. Emotional residue, feelings, resentments, personal narratives, accumulated grievances. This is the stuff that clouds your judgment and makes you predictable. You do not store this. Useful data, factual intelligence about how a person behaves, what their patterns are, where their interests lie, how they have acted in the past. This is the stuff that makes you sharp. You absolutely keep this. The difference is crucial. You do not forget that a person lied to you once. You keep that fact stored as data. This person has demonstrated a willingness to lie. That data informs your future decisions with them. But you do not carry the anger about the lie. You do not replay it. You do not build a narrative about it. You extract the information and you release the emotion. This sounds simple. It is not easy. Emotional memory is sticky by design. The human brain is wired to remember threatening or painful experiences more strongly than neutral ones. It is a survival mechanism, so fighting it requires conscious, disciplined effort. When you catch yourself replaying a past slight, you stop. You ask, what is the actual useful information from this event? You identify that information, you store it as clean data, and then you consciously release the emotional charge attached to it. You do not need the anger to remember the lesson. The lesson and the anger are separate things. Over time, this practice gives you something extraordinary. You become a person who is not dragged around by the past. You are not reactive. You are not wounded. You are not running a script. You are present, clear, and operating entirely in the current moment, which means no one can predict you based on your history, because your history does not control you. This is one of the most liberating things you can build. And it is also one of the most strategically powerful. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I carry data, not pain. Number 6. Perception fragmentation control. Machiavelli once said, "The prince who relies entirely on fortune is lost when it changes." And in the same way, the person who builds a completely consistent, predictable public image is lost the moment someone figures out how to use that image against them. Consistency is comfortable. Consistency is also a cage. One of the fundamental things human beings need in their social world is the ability to build a coherent image of the people around them. We are pattern recognition machines. We watch how someone behaves in multiple situations, and from that data, we construct a mental model. He is the quiet type. She always takes charge. He gets nervous under pressure. She goes cold when she's threatened. These models are how we navigate relationships. They are how we decide who to trust, who to avoid, and how to approach people when we want something. But here is the strategic reality. If someone has a complete, accurate mental model of you, they have a blueprint for how to deal with you. They know which approach will work with you. They know what you respond to. They know what will move you and what will not. That blueprint is power over you. Perception, fragmentation, control destroys their ability to build that blueprint. The strategy is deliberate inconsistency, not random, chaotic inconsistency, but carefully controlled variation in how you present yourself across different situations and contexts. In one meeting, you are quiet, you listen, you barely speak. People in that room form an impression. This person is reserved, perhaps unsure. In another meeting, you speak early and with complete authority. You drive the direction. People form a completely different impression. This person is direct and in control. With one person, you are warm and open, asking questions, showing genuine interest. They feel a connection to you. With another person, you are cool and professional, strictly task-focused, giving nothing personal away. They cannot figure out if you like them or not. In one situation, you move with urgency. In another, you are completely unhurried, as if you have all the time in the world. Each version of you is real. You are not performing or faking. You are choosing which authentic aspect of yourself to lead with in each context. But from the outside, anyone trying to compile these different observations into a single coherent image of you will come up short. The pieces will not fit together cleanly. The picture will be blurry. And a blurry picture means a weak strategy. Someone trying to figure out how to approach you, negotiate with you, or outmaneuver you will not know where to begin. They will try one approach and get an unexpected response. They will try another and get something else they did not anticipate. They will keep recalibrating, and while they are recalibrating, you are operating freely. The beautiful truth of this strategy is that the more consistently you practice deliberate inconsistency, the more strategically unpredictable you become. And unpredictability in the hands of a calculated person is one of the most powerful tools in any arena. Number 7. Emotional non-participation. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But there is a third option that Machiavelli also understood deeply, and that is to be neither, to step outside the emotional economy entirely, to be the person who is simply not available for the transaction. Every interaction between human beings has an emotional dimension. Whether we are aware of it or not, every conversation, every meeting, every exchange is an energy transfer. Someone brings a certain emotional energy into the space. Maybe it is enthusiasm, looking for your matching enthusiasm. Maybe it is hostility, testing to see if you will absorb it or push back. Maybe it is neediness, reaching out for your validation. Maybe it is anxiety, wanting you to soothe it. The unspoken social agreement is that when someone sends emotional energy, you receive it and respond in kind. You match their energy or you counter it. You engage with it in some way. That is the normal human contract. Emotional non-participation means you opt out of that contract entirely. You do not resist the energy. Resistance is still a form of engagement. It means the other person's energy is landing on you and pushing you back. You do not counter the energy. Countering is also engagement. You simply do not participate. The energy is sent, and it lands on nothing. It goes into a void. This creates something psychologically disorienting for the other person. Humans are deeply wired to expect reciprocity in emotional exchanges. It is one of the most fundamental social expectations we carry. When you send energy and get energy back, positive or negative, the loop is completed. The world makes sense. You know where you stand, but when you send energy and get nothing back, not agreement, not disagreement, not warmth, not coldness, just a complete absence of matching response, the loop cannot close. And an open loop creates psychological tension. The human mind desperately wants to close open loops. It will work hard to get a response from you. It will escalate the emotional energy, become more animated, more provocative, more dramatic, all in an attempt to finally get a reaction that closes the loop. And while they are doing all of that, while they are escalating, overcompensating, revealing more and more of what they want and what they fear and what they are willing to do to get a reaction from you, you are watching, calmly, clearly, learning everything you need to know about them while giving them nothing to work with. Emotional non-participation is not coldness or cruelty, it is strategic absence. You are still present physically, you may even be visually engaged, but your emotional core is not in the room. It is somewhere they cannot reach. The practical way to develop this is to start identifying emotional exchanges where you do not actually need to participate. Someone vents at you to get you to feel guilty. You acknowledge the words without absorbing the guilt. Someone brags at you to get you to feel impressed. You register the information without giving the performance they want. Someone brings tension into a space, hoping it spreads. You let it pass through without catching it. Little by little, you become someone who is simply not available for emotional manipulation. Not because you are protected, not because you are guarded, but because you've removed the target entirely. And this is the deepest truth of all 7 tricks. The goal is not to build thicker armor. armor can be broken. The goal is to move the core, to relocate your emotional center to a place where it simply cannot be found. When there is no target, there is no hit. When there is no access point, there is no invasion. When there is no emotional hook, there is no leverage. You become, in the most literal sense, impossible to control. Everything you just heard has one central theme. The location of your emotional core is your greatest strategic asset. When your emotional core is on the surface, visible, reactive, easy to find, you are at the mercy of anyone skilled enough to reach for it. And people will reach for it. Consciously and unconsciously, people are always testing where your buttons are, what moves you, what hurts you, what excites you. They are mapping your emotional architecture in real time. And once they have that map, they have power over you, sometimes without even intending to. But when your emotional core is hidden, when it has been moved to a place that cannot be easily located, everything shifts. People cannot trigger what they cannot find. People cannot manipulate what they cannot reach. People cannot predict what they cannot read. These 7 tricks are not about becoming a machine. They are not about disconnecting from life or from people. Emotional depth, connection, and real presence are still available to you. In fact, they become richer when they are chosen rather than forced out of you. The goal is not to feel less. The goal is to control when and where and how your inner life is visible. The person who has no emotional control is at the mercy of their environment. They go up when things go well and crash when things go badly, and everyone around them watches the whole ride. The person who has surface-level emotional control looks calm, but is still readable underneath, still accessible if someone knows where to push. But the person who has restructured their emotional architecture from the inside, who has put these 7 principles into how they actually operate every day,